go. So I'm excited to introduce to you our next workshop leader, Marsha Greyeyes. She serves as the finance director at Change Labs, an MBA graduate from Grand Canyon University. She's dedicated to enhancing infrastructure and quality of the life on Navajo lands, especially on the Navajo and Hopi nations. Marsha offers her expertise in bookkeeping, expense tracking, financial management, and budgeting to support Native entrepreneurs. Marsha is Danette and is from Shanto. In today's 90-minute workshop, Marsha will introduce you to Wave. It's the free, intuitive accounting software perfect for small businesses looking to simplify their financial processes. Marsha will show you how to use Wave to automate your bookkeeping, organize your expenses, and manage your invoices all in one place. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Marsha. Give me one moment. All right, Marsha, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well on this Wednesday morning. Yat Eshe Marsha Greyeyes Inishye. Kihlachini goes the Lenin Schlingo Twitch Edi Mashichin look at ne the Shichin or Shin. I'm from Shanto, as Sophie mentioned, and today we're going to be covering Wave accounting software. This is one of the more controversial, I guess, software that accountants and other, I guess, financial professionals don't really use. But personally, I like this because it's very user-friendly. We move on to this. Who should use Wave? Small businesses that have simple accounting needs that want to keep track of income and expenses and without having to deal with larger systems that might not serve their purposes. Freelance and sole proprietors, startups, creative professionals, nonprofit and community organizations, other businesses seeking a free option. See my typo there, it says seeking. So pretty much Wave is a lower price option than QuickBooks, for example. So if you do go onto Wave, you'll see that there's a startup page here that looks something like this. You'll have a launch pad, which kind of gives you an overview of what you want to do. It usually says professional invoicing, or are you an accountant, or are you the business owner? So you pick one of those avenues and it kind of gives you a customized look on what your page, what it displays on the dashboard. And as we're looking at the dashboard here, you'll see that there's the sales and payment tabs here. Number 2, purchases, receipts, accounting, banking, payroll, and reports. And if you have a newer system, you might see like payroll, advisors, and various other ones that are on this list on the left-hand side of the screen. And there's also what we call an overview. You'll have like the cash flow. And I'm going to toggle between my presentation and also the actual page itself. So it's just a lot easier to give you an overview of that portion if we're able to toggle back and forth. If you're not entirely sure where the website for Wave is, I'm going to put it in chat here. You can follow along there. Okay, let me know when you got that or you received that. So Wave sign-in portion looks something like this. If you're finally signing up, if it's your first time coming onto Wave, you have the option to use your Google account to sign in, or either creating a different email account to sign into Wave. Just remember that if you're using a different account, or if you're typing in your email address yourself, that you have everything correct. And also keep in mind that whatever email address that you use on Wave is going to stay the same. So if you ever decide to change it up, you're just going to have to start another account. So that's something to bear in mind when you're doing this. The other portion to kind of look at is the pricing. I've mentioned this a little bit in my intro. The starter plan, so Wave basically just has 2 plans. It has the starter plan and the pro plan. The starter plan is $0 and it allows you to invoice, do a lot of basic things. It also allows you to track your cash flow and add customers. For the pro version, which is $16 a month, it gives you the option, all of these options, plus being able to take online payments, auto import bank transactions, and so forth. The difference between the two, though, when you're comparing the features, is that the paid option gives you a little bit of a leeway when you're doing credit card transactions. The starter plan charges you 60 cents per transaction plus the 2.9% fee that is tacked on by Plaid, I believe. So per credit card transaction for the pro plan, you only pay the 2.9%. And you can send invoices via PDF, via Wave. You can do the same with the Pro plan. You can take automated late payment reminders, or you can send those out actually. And you can add your logo and brand colors. And for the free option, you can also do invoice and estimates in the mobile app. Everything else that's offered other than creating unlimited bank records or accounting records, everything else you're going to have to pay for. Removing wave branding from footers. I don't know if you've seen an invoice, a free version of the wave invoice, but it'll have like the wave brand at the bottom and various other things. So for the pro plan, that would be removed. You can take that off. Various other features that you can use that the starter plan doesn't have. But for the purposes of a small business, if you're just starting out, maybe it's your first, second, third, or fifth year, Wave usually offers most of the things that you need, okay? To go from, let's say, a ledger to a software, or from your spreadsheets to software, if you're already keeping track of your Wave bookkeeping system. So when you sign into the Wave accounting platform, you'll see this page here. I have screenshots of it, but it doesn't really do much justice to what you see. So I mentioned that at the Launchpad level, you see what you want to do that day. If you want to do transactions, you might pick this one. If you want to do payroll, you might pick this one. Remember that for the starter option, you don't have the payroll feature added on yet. If you want to do that, you can pay for the pro version. So whichever one you pick, let's say that I pick this one, it'll take you to this particular page, and it'll ask you if you want to bring in data, or if you want to manage transactions, or add sales tax, or scan receipts, or customize accounts, or hire an expert. This particular portion is Wave's contractors. They allow you to work with one of their agents, and they help you, for one, if you wanted to do that, maybe set up your bookkeeping system and give you a 101 for 30 days or so for something, for an amount that's about $200, maybe a little less than that. And then there's the sales tax portion, the managed transaction, customize accounts, and so forth. If you pick the other option, let's go back to the Launchpad, it'll always kind of keep you in, it'll try and help you by taking you to whatever you're requesting. So if you're doing professional invoicing, then it'll take you to creating an invoice, or adding a customer, or accepting payments, or creating estimates. So whichever starting point you choose, it's kind of helpful just to take you straight over there instead of clicking around on the left-hand side. So if you do have payroll, then you would pick the reliable payroll system, and it'll tell you one employee on the payroll, whether or not their tax details are entered, if they have their banking information entered. You can also add contractors, independent contractors, and you can also add details about your business, pay schedule, funding accounts for various programs, tax files, and then various other ways you can automate your payroll and so forth. So that's the Launchpad there. If you're wondering about that, it's okay to click on that and to look around Wave accounting software's pretty much platform. And then there's the dashboard. This is my favorite one. Obviously, on this dashboard, you don't see anything other than a linear line here. That's because nothing's been entered. It gives you the inflow, outflow, and net change. The inflow is the amount of money that's coming in, basically the revenue that you're collecting. So when a payment is made or when there's a transaction that has occurred, you'll see that the green line goes up, and you'll see the outflow, meaning the expenses. So if you're paying anything, you'll see that there's a fluctuation in the lines itself. And this gives you the amount of change between the two, whether or not you're bringing in more money than you're spending or vice versa. And then there's the profit and loss, income and expenses. This only includes unpaid invoices and bills, okay? And for the most part, I believe if you're applying for kinship lending, one of the things that you have to furnish to them is profit and loss statement. It's also the same with taxes when you're filing your taxes. This is the one report that they're always asking for and looking for. And basically, it's just the amount of money coming in, the amount of money going out. And then there's the payable and owning. So this would be if you had a bill that was coming due, you would enter the information here, and it'll tell you whether or not it's been paid or if you still owe the money. And then there's the net income, the differences between the amount of money coming in and the amount that's going out, and how much you're actually retaining. And this breaks down your expenses. So it kind of gives you an overview of what's going on in your business month by month, or if you wanted to, you could do it year by year. Okay. And then there's the sales and payments. Here is all the things that you can do under sales and payments. You can do estimates. Estimates here, you can select a customer. Let's say it's Jane Begay. You want to send her an estimate. You would pick like a status from what day to what day to just see if you have any estimates for her. But if you want to create one, you click on the right-hand side here and you add the customer. If they're not already in there, you can type that information in, and maybe you add an item. Maybe it's an initial consultation and it's $55 for an hour. But let's say that your initial consultation, she said, I want to talk to you for 5 hours. And you can just give her an estimate on what that might cost. So that's an estimate. You can preview it, make sure that everything looks good. You can change the colors on your estimates and invoices, and then you can save and continue. Remember, if you see this message, this is a draft estimate. You can take further actions once you approve it. So when you have a draft like this, you got to make sure that you approve it for it to be created. Otherwise, it's not going to be in your system. Okay, it kind of just sits there. The same with invoices. When you're creating an invoice, you have to also approve it. Okay, so let me see. Let's do change lines. Oh yeah, the invoice numbers up here are automatically generated. You can change it if you'd like, but it's usually sequential numbers. And also you can change the payment due on invoicing. So if you want this particular invoice to be due within 15 days, you can change the date on that, or you could click on this and pick whatever, either on receipt, meaning that the day that the person gets this, you want to be paid, or 45 days later, or even 90 days later. So it'll give a payment due amount there. So most dependent upon what kind of work you do, how much leeway you give your customers, you could do 15, 30, 45, 60, or on receipt. For most contractors, for Change Labs, we usually do 30 days. So in this case, that's what I would be adding here. Maybe it's jump drives or whatever. Maybe I'm consulting with them or whatever it is. And then you just send this over. You save it, and then you got to make sure that you approve the draft. You can always edit it too and say, hey, they don't need the jump drives anymore. They just need an initial consultation. You can preview it again, and then you save, and then approve the draft. Okay. So there's a lot of things that go into this. Just remember that a lot of it is automated on Waves In, and if you wanted to change up the invoice, you can do that as well. So let's go back to invoices. You can go here. You can browse around on your computer or wherever you have a logo. And for this purposes, I'm just going to put this, whatever this picture is, onto the logo portion, and it should upload it. And if you want to do like a summary of the project, you can type it in here, and the rest, you can also pick a color. Like you want to know if you want to pick a color, a different color for your invoices, you can do that as well. For this particular one, I have it set to pink just because it's, it's just something that I added. For the files, if you want to upload something else in addition to the invoices itself, you can click on this. Maybe it's an advertisement, maybe it's something else. You can attach it to the invoice itself, and you can preview it. And then there's the payment setup portion. This is an added portion that you'd have to pay for. Okay. So this doesn't come standard with the starter plan. So just be mindful of that. Here it is. It tells you what the price right for small business is, what it says, but it gives you what you can do and what you cannot do under this plan. So we kind of touched on that a little bit. If you look at this, there's different, like Amex would cost you more than bank ACH transactions, bank to bank, for example. If it's credit card transactions, it costs you a little bit more. So that's something that just be mindful of that when you're accepting credit cards or other transactions. The next one is recurring invoices. You can do this. You can create an invoice that automatically sends at a certain time of the month or every couple of weeks or so forth. And this also is a paid service. And checkouts, again, also a paid service. It's basically the same as getting payments set up through their system. You can also issue customer statements on outstanding invoices, or if they say, hey, I think I paid that amount, or could you send me a list of all of the transactions that I did this week or last month or, the month before this year? You can create a statement for them here. And you also can add your customers. You can do it via a CSV list, or you can add them one by one. So this, you would have to create a spreadsheet, or if you already have one, all you do is upload it. And then this is where you enter your product and services, whatever you sell, whether it's a product or whether it's a service. So you just pick this particular button here on the right-hand side, add a product or service. And you would put a name on it, a description, and a price. You could do this one of two ways. Selling this is that you're the one that's bringing in the income. It's something that your company offers. If you do buy this, then it's expense. It's taking it out. It's you buying that service, whatever it might be. And it gives you a list here that you can pick from. So let's say that it's maybe you're paying for somebody's services. Maybe it's an employee that you have. You would probably pick some of these and like employee benefits. Maybe it has a sales tax. Maybe it doesn't. You would enter that information here and you would save it. So that's how that works. And unlike other platforms, for Wave, it's simplified so that you know that it's geared towards non-accountants and non-bookkeepers. Okay. And there's purchases. You can go through this, things you buy. Yeah. So if you have a bill, you can create a bill here to keep track of your bills. You can also purchase the vendor's time. You can add a vendor, somebody that helps you deliver certain services or products to your customer. And you can do a 1099 NEC contractor, or you could do like regular. You'll just enter the name, the information. And if it's a 1099, then it's an individual contractor. You would pick that, either an individual or a business. If you pick an individual, make sure that you have their social security number and all of this information so that at the end of the year, you can send them a 1099. And then there's a business contractor. Make sure that you have their EIN number. It kind of gives you a little bit of a different page to fill out. And then under purchases also is products and services. You can add what products and services you purchase. For example, if you bought something at retail that you're going to sell in your store or elsewhere, you would put that in here. Maybe it's building your inventory. Maybe you made some inventory. You would enter that information. Let's say it's materials. You want to track your costs on materials. You might put that in there as well. Also, various other things. I mean, if you consult it with an attorney, maybe you might want to enter that information there as well. Receipts is this you can do off of your mobile phone. You can upload a picture of your receipt that you can use to update your bookkeeping expenses. Okay, I think this is one that's much needed because a lot of us keep receipts in shoe boxes or other things, and this kind of just helps you to keep track of things real time. The plus side of this is that some receipts might have ink that fades over time. So if you're able to document it right away, it's a good idea to use this receipt option. This one here is the accounting tab. The first thing you'll see here is transactions, and that basically is everything that's happening in all the accounts. Okay, so here an owner disbursement was made from an account, merchant 4567. Okay, a payment was made of $500. And this was in 2021. And then in November 2020, there was an office share that was purchased. So if you have your bank account linked to the transaction here, it'll automatically update this. But that's also a paid service. Alternatively, what you can do is you can import your bank statement and it'll upload up to here. Okay. Otherwise, you'll have to enter everything manually. So up here you have 4 buttons. So if it's money that's coming in, you want to add it as income. If it's money that's going out, you want to make it as an expense. So if you're paying for something, you would pick that button. Here you can also scan receipts. And then if you press the more button, it'll ask you if you want to do a journal entry or to connect with your bank or upload transactions. This portion here, the one that if you pick this, then you manually can load your bank statement. Okay, and it'll update this portion. Something to keep in mind, if you have your bank already connected to this, and then you upload a bank statement from the same bank, you'll have duplicate entries. So be careful on that when you're working with the transaction portion. And then there's reconciliation. This is after you compare everything to your bank statements and they check out, you can reconcile that account at the end of the month or whenever you do it. If you need more information on how to do that, you can book a free consultation with Wave, or you could call Change Labs and we'll show you how to do that. Set up an appointment with us, however way you want to do this, or talk to a bookkeeper or an accountant. And here's the one that I like most out of this whole thing. It's the chart of accounts. The reason why I like the layout of this is that Wave, as far as I know, is the only software that has it laid out like this, linear. So most of them is just like a whole list of things that you're looking at, and then it might change midway through and it looks a little different thereafter. This here is you own that could be liquidated, that could be turned into money. First one is cash that's already dollars. Cash is king is what they say. So cash on hand, money you have on hand is a good thing. And then of course you can set up bank accounts here. So this portion, some of it is automated, but if you wanted to, let's say that you open a new bank account or you got a credit card or a debit card that's attached to the, bank account, then you can add that here. So you would just pick add, and then what is the name of this thing? It might give you a list of things, okay? And you pick one. Everything on here is in some form what we call an asset. So money in transit, money that still hasn't hit the bank, expected payments from customers. These are accounts receivable. If you've heard accounting terms, that's what we call it. Inventory, property, plant, and equipment. This would be if, maybe you had a new building, or maybe you bought something new, or you bought new equipment. Depreciation and amortization actually goes with this here. If, for example, if you had a vehicle that you bought and it's, you want to record the depreciation, you will pick that. Vendor prepayments and vendor credits are considered assets because it's prepaid and there's a service that's yet to be delivered. And when it's been delivered, then it becomes an expense. Other short-term assets and other long-term assets. So when you see short-term or current, and then you see long-term, anything considered short-term in accounting is 12 months or less. Anything long-term is over 12 months. So you'll see this both in assets and liabilities. Just keep that in mind as well. And then we covered most of these things here. Other long-term assets, this would be maybe something that you didn't have listed up here. Maybe it's something that, maybe an example might be like, maybe a company gifted you stocks to your business for whatever reason, you could add that here. And then of course there's liabilities and credit cards. This is anything that you owe to someone else. Okay, so if you have a credit card, then you obviously have to pay the credit card company. If you have a loan or a line of credit, you would put that in here as well. Expected payments to vendors. This would be things that you're obligated to pay to a vendor. For example, let's say that your contractor or subcontractor sent you a bill. It would be something that you're liable to pay. Sales taxes, you can also edit these. So, oh yeah, one of the best features about Wave Accounting is these question marks. You click on them and it will give you a description of what it is. Okay, so here you have sales taxes. You can always add or change this. Not from this page though, it's a different page. And then here, due for payroll. It's interesting. If you look at this, all of these gives you like an option to add a new account. For this one, it's pretty much maxed out. Here, you can edit this as well if you have payroll liabilities. If you want to pay yourself or other business owners, you can also put information in here. If you go up back to the top, it says liabilities and credit cards, okay? Here again is your short-term liabilities, meaning anything that's due within 12 months. Long-term, anything that's due over 12 months. Here's another feature that you don't usually see, the transition. It kind of breaks down income separately for you so that any money that's coming in, you can, put in here, consulting income, donation, grants, sales, whatever it is that you want to put in here that generates income for you. If you have any discounts, you can add it in here. If you have other incomes like donation that doesn't require a monetary transactions, either through bartering or other systems, you can also put that in here. Income that's not categorized, these are things that you normally, it's an anomaly if you were to get that particular type of income, for example. Maybe, for example, let's say that it's a payment from, I don't know, maybe the stocks that we had talked about in the previous assets, maybe they paid out $5,000 or something. You would put that in here, and it's not it doesn't happen all the time, maybe every few years or something like that. You could put that in there. If it's coming into your business. And this here, if you want to do like, if you had foreign currency that you're working with, either gaining or losing, you would enter that information here. whatever foreign exchange amount you're working with. I shouldn't say amount, type. And then expenses here is a list of all of the expenses that are standard for a particular type of business. I believe this one was a consulting business. So when you're signing on to Wave, it'll give you an option of the type of business that you have, and you pick one. If there isn't one listed, try and pick one that's closest to what you think your business will be like. So this particular one, it kind of went off of maybe having a computer business of some sort, digital business. So you have the computer hardware, hosting, so it generates this list. But also keep in mind that you're not tied to this list. You can always edit it, to kind of go along with your needs. And you can also add a new account, whatever new operating expenses you have. You can name it whatever it is. Maybe it's travel or lodging or something else. Also, something to keep in mind is that it's a good idea to do subcategories of some of these as well, but it's not necessary. Okay. You can always turn off the usage of certain accounts as well. So if you didn't want to use office equipment anymore, you just click here and it won't, you won't be able to use it. Okay. So it'll give you this archive message, meaning that it's not entirely deleted, but it's no longer used. And you can always undo that as well. Here is the cost of goods sold. This is the amount it costs you to produce, let's say, a material good. Maybe you have a clothing business and you do a lot of your own designs and you make your own clothes. What would probably go in here is the cost of materials. And this is just a way for you to track like how much you're spending on materials, for example, and also to give an idea of what your base price is. Payment processing fees, if you have this particular portion set up through your Wave system, then you would have the account added here as an expense. And then payroll, if you have that, it gives you a list of the type of things that you should be mindful of. You see employee benefits, employee shares and benefits, sales or salary and wages, and employee taxes. If you have anything additional, maybe you have like a 401k or some retirement account that your business is paying for your particular employees, and you would put that in here as well. Uncategorized expenses, these are things that are, again, an anomaly, something that you wouldn't normally be paid for. Maybe it's something along the lines of, well, let's get back to let's say that you have a clothing store. Maybe one of the things that you're paying for is somebody to redo the outside sidewalk, for example. It's not something that you do all the time. Maybe it needs to be swept or whatever. There's an ordinance out, city wants you to do something. Maybe that's where that cost is. You put that under there as something you pay for. It's not the core of your business. Loss or foreign exchange. Again, this is if you lost any money, for example, if you went to Canada and you sold some products there, and in that exchange, the money between the Canada and the US, the exchange rate is lower. You would be losing money, meaning that if your Canadian dollar is less than what you brought in, that's something that would be a loss. So versus if you were to, let's say, if you got paid in euros, maybe you make more money. Just an FYI. So that's just what that is. And then equity. This is everything that the owner puts into the business. Okay. So you have the owner contribution, the amount of money that the owner put into their business, the amount the owner takes out of the business, either as a payment or to keep the business running, or to help the owner with their personal use. And then there's this retained earning and profit. This is their owner's equity. If you look at a balance sheet, you might see this owner's equity. This is any liabilities, anything that's left over after liabilities from the business asset. In other words, you take this here and you subtract that. That equals the equity, what the business is worth, I guess, in some sense. So those are the chart of accounts here, broken down quite a bit on Wave. And to me, it's a lot more user friendly. If you wanted to modify this, you would, add a new account. But for the most part, all of these cover everything, just about everything that your business would need. Okay. But if you wanted to add something else, maybe under business owner contribution and drawing, you can do that. You can do the same under retained earnings and so forth. Okay. Under accounting, also, there's a button called hiring a bookkeeper. You can do that. It costs some money to do that. This is not a free service from Wave, but you can book an initial consultation for free. And then, of course, there's the tax filing. Okay. Wave does this for a fee as well, and you can pick the type of business structure you have. Either a sole proprietor, a single member LLC, a multi-member LLC, a partnership, a corporation, etc. And based on that, Wave will gather the information needed to file your business taxes for you. And then there's this button called Accept Payments. This is more or less direct payments from the bank or credit cards or Apple Pay that you can add on to your services so that your customers pay you faster or better, or they have more options to pay you instead of just one way. And we kind of looked at that already. There's different types of ways that can be done, either through an ACH transaction directly from the account, via credit card, or via Amex credit card. So that is the overview. Now we're gonna move back to the slide presentation here in a second. So we covered most of this, transaction overviews. Hold on, let me review this. So this one is importing account data into Wave. This is one that we kind of touched on. And this is a transaction. Let's say that you bought a desk from IKEA. It will have the date there, which account paid for this particular desk. So in this case, the selection was business checking, and it was a withdrawal, and it was $75, and it was an office, it was in the category of office supplies under the accounts listing. And then you can review this, or if you wanted to build this to two separate accounts, maybe it's business checking and maybe business savings, you would click here and split the transaction. Okay. So maybe you want them to split it between two accounts, you would do that. Okay. Something to keep in mind is that Wave supports some of the major banks, but it may not support some of the credit unions or other smaller banks. Okay. So you have to keep in mind that if Wave doesn't support your particular bank's platform, then you would have to upload your bank statements to be able to record some of these transactions if that's what you want to do. Okay. And here is a list of transactions. Let's say that you were able to connect your bank account or even upload your transactions from the bank. You would have this information kind of auto-populate, and you can go through this list and apply which account paid for this. Of course, it should be recorded already. The category you want it to fall under. So here is an interesting portion, creating transfers. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then there's electronic payments. So basically it auto-populates, and if it's not the right category, it's not in the right account, you would make sure that you make those changes and apply the right information for that particular income, transfer, or expense. Okay, so transfers. Anytime that you move money from one account to another, you want it create a transfer in your accounting software system. Okay, so it doesn't duplicate that transaction. So let's say that you have a business savings account and you have $500 in there that you want to move to your business checking. You got to make sure that you create a transfer so that that particular transaction is categorized as that. So it's not duplicating it and seeing the 500 as additional income. So be mindful of that. There is a button that allows you to do those transfers. So, for example, if you have, let's see, you want to have a transfer that reveals itself by showing you 2 line items, okay? So the simple thing is to transfer to the bank, the credit card, or loan from that category menu. So if you, let's say, for example, you also took out a loan and you move that money to a certain banking or checking that you have, a checking account that you have, you want to make sure that that's also recorded as a loan, so it doesn't muddle your whole accounting system, or the income and expense portion doesn't get messed up. So here it is. So when you're doing transfers, it'll give you a choice on where you want to put this amount, the money that you're transferring. And then sales taxes. I know that we get a lot of questions on this one. If you're collecting sales tax on a product or service you sell, you can make provisions for that transaction. So you would click on transactions and go back to the page. I'll show you how to do that. And then you would click on sales tax and then click save, and the sales tax should be applied. So you get out of here, go back into Wave. Easiest way to do it is through here. Go back to your launch pad and here, add sales taxes. So you would click on that. Let's go, and you would put the tax name on there. Maybe it's for the Navajo Nation, unhealthy food tax. Maybe you call it UFT, and in tax for junk food. And you can put your tax number there, and you'll put the rate. I don't remember what the rate was, but I'm just going to put 2% on there. And then save. Actually, I can put 2%. But less than 2%. If you click this where it says this tax is recoverable, it means that if you bought this, let's say it's a candy or a bag of chips from another vendor and you paid $1 in taxes, but when you're selling it to your customer, their tax is $2. You would only charge your customer the $1 tax. And you would kind of credit the other dollar that you spent on it. So for the most part, this one, it's usually not the case. Usually it's an unrecoverable tax, meaning that if you paid $1 to the chip vendor, then your customer might have to pay $2. They're responsible for the entire $2. So make sure that if all of the money, if all of the tax dollars the customer is responsible for, make sure that you don't have this one clicked. Just an FYI. Something to remember when you're doing this. And you can always edit this. Maybe it's a new tax rate. There you go. You can always change it. So that's how you would do the sales tax portion. And then you can always, add, edit, or delete sales taxes. You can use your Wave mobile app also to add or delete sales taxes. Actually, edit and add. And in addition to that, I already covered the recoverable versus non-recoverable sales taxes. Here's just an overview of what that would look like. So if your tax is $2, the government tax is $10, your customer would be responsible for $8 of that. If it's non-recoverable, your tax is $2, government sales tax is $10, the customer's responsibility would be $10. Actually, yours would be $10 too. Compound taxes, this is a tax that kind of builds on each other in some sense. I don't think we really have to worry about this on Navajo, but it's just good to know. So if an item costs $100 and then you have, the first sales tax at 5%, it would add $5. And then on top of that, maybe there's an additional tax of 10%. That would add an additional $10.50. So for the $100 item, you would, in some sense, be double taxed. So it would be $115.50. So that's what a compound tax is. And we covered that. Let's see. All right. I'm going to go for Q&A. If you guys have any questions, we have about 15 minutes.
Hey, Marsha, there's a couple of questions in the chat that I wasn't able to answer.
Okay, let me stop my share here. Okay, go ahead.
So the first one would be, does Wave offer a training bank?
There are a slew of videos that you can find on YouTube, but it's not comprehensive. Okay. A lot of things that Wave offers is a lot of reading, Q&A questions, frequently asked questions. So, but if you go onto YouTube, you might be able to find some of the things that people have done over the years.
Okay, awesome. And then another question is, if interested in using Wave, is it advisable to begin at the start or a fiscal year or retro? So I'm guessing, like, if we were to start in the middle of the year, would we still be able to use Wave?
Yes. Also, who's the one that asked that question? I need a little bit more context.
Mary, does she mean?
This is
Mary?
Mary. Yeah, I've been in business for a few years. And I'm thinking
Okay.
for tracking purposes, should I go back and do those other years and input them, or should I start fresh beginning of my new year?
Well, here's my question. Do you need the information from the previous years? I would say yes, but did you keep records of them?
Yes,
Okay. Do you have it on spreadsheets or what do you have it on?
spreadsheets, nothing formal like this.
Okay. And do you have like
Tracking.
a account for your business?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a bank account for your business?
Yes.
Well, you have a couple options. You can recreate using that information. We can upload that information onto Wave and start from there. Or you could start, like you said, anew if if you decide to start fresh. Either way, I mean, it can be created whenever. Okay. Depending upon how good your record keeping is. It can be retro or it could be from day one moving forward as of whatever day you pick, either January or mid-month or whatever it is,
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. And then Denise has a couple, she isn't here in person today, so maybe we could do like a one-off session. But one of them that was really interesting is, what's the difference between Wave and QuickBooks? What are the strengths for Wave for a smaller business?
Let me show you. It's easier for me to show you. Let me see. For me, what I like about Wave is that it's straightforward and it's like using an iPhone. I'll show you what QuickBooks' page looks like. Can you see my screen or not yet? Let me share it again. Hold on. Here's an example of a QuickBooks page, okay? If you remember the chart of accounts for the one Wave has, this is the chart of accounts for QuickBooks. It'll list all of the assets first, and then it'll go into liabilities. Let's see, transaction. Then it'll go into expenses, fixed costs, other asset, other current stuff. And it just it's just a running tab. And for a lot of people that are new to accounting or bookkeeping, this is a little too much. When you're making changes, there's a lot more manual things you have to do. I mean, some of it is automated, but there's just a lot more to it in terms of keeping track of things. And it doesn't answer your questions like Wave does. It doesn't give you little notes that says that that might not be a good idea, or it doesn't give you a description of what it is that you're working with. So that's one for me. I mean, that's a selling point for me personally. But if you're really well versed in bookkeeping or, accounting to some degree, you can always move on to this one. And it's easy to integrate between Wave and QuickBooks. So you can actually upload the information onto QuickBooks and go from there. Dashboard for QuickBooks looks something like this. You can always change it as well. So it'll list all the accounts. For the bank transactions, it actually kind of is a little different because it makes it differentiates between the different types of transactions here. You have the bank, the app transaction, and then it allows you to click and navigate it. Slightly different, more linear. It's just a lot more busier than the Wave software. For me, I mean, and for a lot of small businesses, they don't use everything that's on QuickBooks. They would use a majority of the things that are on Wave, though.
Awesome. And then we'll take one last question from Mary again. She wanted to know why Wave was controversial.
Oh, because a lot of accountants don't like using it just because maybe it's, I don't know, it's their personal preference. A lot of the way that they're trained is that QuickBooks is the way to go because it's just, a lot easier for them. It does the double entry system, which Wave also does in the background. It's just more tailored to the way they think. So their preference is for QuickBooks. So you might hear your accountant say, hey, I'd rather that you were on QuickBooks because that's the one they're most familiar with as well.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you, Marsha, for giving us an overview on Wave. If you have any more questions, you can definitely email us or reach out to us through a business coaching session. But again, thank you for coming to our 90-minute workshop. We will be having another one at the beginning of next month. No, yeah, the beginning of next month with our very own Cheyenne Lacey. She is part of the Hosta management who does a lot of our social media. So if you're looking into getting ready for the holiday sales and you want to use your platforms to get ready for those holiday sales, definitely tune in Thursday, November 14th. We're all going to be on the same time. Yay! So we won't have to go back and forth. So it's going to be from 11 to 12:30 Thursday, November 14th. Thank you all again for chiming in, and we'll see you on the next one.